the album itself, which we're going to get into, it has a lot of gems that I feel like go a little bit underappreciated from the people.
This is a Culture Inject production.
Welcome back to Part of Us, an En Vogue Fancast. Before we jump into today's episode, come check us out on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at En Vogue Craze, and on Twitter at Part of Us Fancast. And also, you can send us an email or record a voice message at partofusevf@gmail.com. Send us a message and we'll respond to it in a future episode. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and a review. Even if you're not listening on Apple Podcasts, head over there and show us some love by leaving a positive rating. It helps.
All right, so let's catch up and talk about what's trending. So Maxine had a successful love letter to Tina Turner performance in Las Vegas, where she sang many of Tina's classics along with a few new songs of her own. We'll talk about that in a moment. But we shared a few snippets from the concert on our Instagram page at En Vogue Craze, so go check those out if you haven't already. What did you guys think of the show?
I thought it was cute. I thought it was really lovely. I could see the promise in it. That's what I'll say. I'm an eternal optimist, and I thought that she kind of did, like, she sounded good. I thought that I didn't know how her doing Tina was going to translate musically, but as soon as I heard her doing Tina, I could see it. Like, I could see it. And then, like, I thought the outfits were cute. So I think that there's something to be workshopped there more to make it like a tighter, stronger situation. But from what I saw, she looked great. She looked like she was having fun too. And I just wish, like, sometimes Tina shows or like these legacy artists, like tribute shows, can like skew towards just the like most well-known things. And I wanted her to kind of do maybe some of the, like, you know, the lesser known things to give us a full, well-rounded Tina Turner experience. Maybe she did. Maybe I just didn't see those clips.
But is it a Tina Turner show if you're not rolling on the river?
Well, you're going to have to do that, right? Like, you got to do that. But like, of a set, are we only going to do like Private Dancer? What's Love Got to Do with It? You know, like, or can we sneak in something to make it a little bit more like valuable for the Tina fans and not just for like the, I think, country club folks who were there. But maybe that's what you got to do when you got to perform for who you got to perform for.
Yeah, so. I think some of those, in those Vegas places, they're like, give us what we know. They want to have a karaoke moment, you know, the songs they can sing along to. But I wonder, can we get a full set list? Like, what was the full rundown?
We should ask somebody, because I know somebody out there knows.
Anybody listening, if you actually paid for the streaming and watched it, how was it? How was the quality? You know, how was the show? Let us know, please, in a listener letter. We would love to hear how that experience was. But continuing on with the latest Maxine updates, she also recently dropped two new tracks on her website. One called Maximizing and the other called Do You See Me Now, which were written by Andy Waldeck, Matthew Robert Holmes, and Herb Middleton. Do You See Me Now has 2 different mixes available as well. What do you guys think of the latest tracks, and which version of Do You See Me Now is your favorite? I will say that she sounds great on both songs from the snippets that I did hear, and the production value sounds good as well. I think it was her, a few months ago, she had released that song for Pride. It was like a dance track that she performed at Pride, and we were talking about the production value of Colors of the World. We were talking about the production value of everything. But the production value on these 2 songs, they sound good. I actually downloaded Maximizing, but I'll talk about that process in a minute. What do y'all think of the songs?
I like Maximizing from what I hear. It's got like a nice little groove to it. It feels very I won't say like contemporary, but it feels a little bit more like it would fit into a mix of things that might be out now-ish. Do You See Me Now is very ballady, and she sounds great. I just don't know that the ballad is necessarily the strongest. I think it's interesting that she released 2 versions or 2 mixes, each with like a different person who's arranged it. That's kind of cool to me, actually. Like, I love when people offer, like, you might not like it this way, but maybe the other arrangement might be more your thing. Like, that's a cool idea, actually. More people should play around with that as a model, because sometimes we like a song based on the nuts and bolts, but it's the production that's different, or it's something that's like taking away from it. So give people options. But of the 2, Maximizing is definitely like a bop.
Oh yeah, I like them both. I think she sounds good. I would like to listen more like on on Apple Music. Once again, like, make it easy for me so that I can have more to say. But from the clips that I've heard, I really liked it, and I hope that they consider putting it on the more accessible streaming services.
So to talk about the process of downloading the song, so you have to go to the website and you have to choose. There are 2 files available. You can buy the MP3 for $1.99, or you can buy the WAV file for $2.99. I bought the MP3, obviously. Download it, you put in your payment information, then you pay. It will email you a receipt of your payment with a link to download it. Then it downloads and it goes to your iTunes. However, it didn't sync to my Apple Music on my phone, so I'm going to try to see how I can get it on there. Not that that's like it's like a 2-minute process. It's not that bad, but compared to how you can just go straight to iTunes and download it, or just go straight to Apple Music or Spotify or whatever and just add it to your playlist and stream it, it's a process that people nowadays are probably going to roll their eyes at. So hopefully Maxine and her manager, I understand wanting to, have a direct to consumer type of thing and all that kind of stuff, but hopefully her management can create a more finite process to make it easier. Because I'm like having to click 4 or 5 links just to get a song, when all I have to do is just hit one button and I have it on my phone to play. That's not the same process, and it's a process that a lot of people will probably not want to do, thinking it's too complicated when it's not. Because essentially that's what we used to do when we would on Napster, when we were like burning CDs. Like, this is what we used to do back in the day. But nowadays we have a short attention span. Yeah. So having to click multiple times and go to multiple windows to download one song,
it wears me out.
Nah.
I'm stressed out at the thought.
That's not like a value thing on Max. That's just how we do things now, right? Like, everything is just, if it's 2 clicks or more than 2 clicks, then like it's already taken too long, It also gave me the option to download an app called Gumdrop. So I maybe think that's probably like a music app that's compatible with whatever affiliate she's using. I don't know what that is. I didn't download it. I wasn't going to either. But yeah, so either way, shout out to Max, because we did mention like her, that she's kind of back in her artist development phase, like trying to find her sound, trying to find what works for her. So the fact that she keeps releasing music on a consistent basis, whether it hits or not, I'm like, that's great. And these songs are a step up from her last songs. Not that they were bad, but it's just kind of great to kind of see like the elevation, the evolution of her, because these songs are good. So Maxine Jones, keep going, auntie. Like, you doing a damn thing. And I'm proud of her. I just we've talked about this before, but like, I appreciate the aesthetic she's giving us. Like, she is giving us like flash and razzle and dazzle and thigh-high boots and leotards, and like, she is giving us a visual. So I appreciate that she's like, I'm not about to like cover up and turn into some kind of, grandma figure. Like, I am gonna be an artist. So, and also, if y'all want to go download it, you can go to maxinejones.gumroad.com. And in addition to this, being able to buy Maximizing Do You See Me Now, you can also buy Didn't I, you can buy Not Your Freak there. And then also she has some merch, like, so you can buy some of the posters for A Love Letter to Tina that she signed. You can also buy a poster of the Vibe magazine photo from back in the day that she signed. And then I think she has some t-shirts as well. So
you said it's called Gumroad?
Yeah,
I said Gumdrop.
I mean, maybe that's the
you
app.
know I didn't know that app.
But I might buy this Vibe magazine poster because it's big. It's like 27 by 32 inches. It's signed and it's like $49, and she'll personalize it for you, which I think is cool. And I always love this photo, this shoot that they did for Vibe. It's so cool. And there's only 2 left.
The people are buying these things. Yes, how about to support the diva? So in other What's Trending news, En Vogue, about maybe 2 weeks ago, they posted on their Instagram some unreleased stills of them back in 2018 when they were featured on the show Drop the Mic for All for One Music. Unfortunately, they said that the show did not air because, of course, it would be on our YouTube page, En Vogue Craze, so it's not there. But the show did not air. But they posted some stills, and the ladies look phenomenal. I'm talking about from the clothing, like Terry wearing this little caftan with this kimono, whatever she got on with the high ponytail, and I've always loved Rona in this this kind of short bob with the
bangs, honey.
It's such a good look, and Mother Cindy is giving us space. This
is my favorite hair story for En Vogue, the current lineup of En Vogue. I like Rona in a bob, even though I love her with her. She got braids right now, right? So I love that. But I also love Terry. The Terry with this high ponytail just always does it for me. And then Cindy is always the middle part. It's the middle part for me that gets me. So they're like just different enough, but it's consistent. I love it.
Yeah, and it's this one picture where Terry is by herself. Mm-hmm. She's kind of tilting her head down. She just looks so adorable in like the grown and sexy type way, but I'm like, look at Terry. Like, I love it. The cheekbones, like the skin, the lashes, like it's just a look. I love them. I love this for them. It sucks it didn't air. I would love to see it.
Speaking of which, what is happening that people can see you won't be able to see it by the time you listen to this, but they are currently performing at Friends and Lovers today as we're recording in Vegas. They have a set time at like 5 p.m. So hopefully they kill it. I think that's a great festival for them to be on. And I'm loving that the girl groups are finding their ways into festivals that skew more like young folks, like Friends and Lovers, En Vogue is there. SWV was at Something in the Water, which I thought was great. So like they're kind of like, maybe we're seeing like not just a love of nostalgia, but like girl groups finding their way back into sort of the mainstream conversation.
They would really find themselves in the conversation if they did a reality show, but go ahead.
Here we go. What did Kiki say? Kiki said something on Legendary. She said, the storyline has run tired. Okay.
No, she said, it's run stale. The storyline for me has run stale. JP, I'm on your side. I'm on your side.
I want to see the girls on TV. But go ahead.
I will say this, that looking up the schedule, so Lovers and Friends Festival has 4 different stages today. And so looking up the schedule, I guess this happens at all festivals. Like people's sets are going to kind of run into each other. But like En Vogue's set is kind of like around the same time that Chris Brown has a set. And then Miguel has a set around the same time. Soulja Boy has a set at the same time. So I just hope that En Vogue has an audience there that wants to see them, you know. Because I think Soulja Boy
I think they sell enough tickets where they know, like, you're gonna have to move around. You know what I mean? I think, like, the way they do it is there's enough people there that you just, not everyone is gonna be able to see, you know, the main stage. Like, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to move around to the other side of the park to see that.
Especially if it gets super crowded, like Coachella be doing. I'm like, nah, I can't be over here. So yeah, I think Soulja Boy's set is like 20 minutes after En Vogue set starts on another stage. Miguel is like 25 minutes after. So, you know, but I mean, there are options. But shout out to En Vogue. I love that they are there.
And, you know, I think that's valid, actually, JP, because, like, it's also that this kind of festival leans just as much as it should on nostalgia as it does on, like, new artists, like new music. So, like, I feel like there's a fan, like the fan who's going to go see Mariah headline on whatever stage she's on is probably not going to go to Soulja Boy. They're probably going to go to En Vogue or something like that. So, like, it makes sense.
Well, now it's time for our main topic, which is going to be a cute little deep dive into Masterpiece Theater, the album that never really albumed. So I'm excited you guys decided to talk about this album. I am.
Before we jump in with opinions and thoughts and things, folks should remember that Masterpiece Theater is the fourth album in En Vogue's discography. It was released on May the 23rd, 2000, back on Elektra Records. This was the second album post-Dawn, but it was certainly a creative endeavor. And it features production, again from Denzel and Thomas, but also additional production from folks like Mo Benjamin, Mark Elliott, Wayne Jackson, Mark Lomax, Michael J. Manny, Marlon McClain, and Dave Meese. And it is certainly creative in that it is a mixture of genres and approaches to music that was some new for the girls. So what did y'all think?
Well, don't forget that upon its release, it received mixed reviews and and it was a commercial disappointment. It reached number 33 on the Billboard Top R&B Hip Hop Albums chart and number 67 on the Billboard 200, becoming En Vogue's first album not to enter the top 10 in the United States.
And it really only had the one single with Riddle, which we'll talk about. But
yeah. Riddle was the only leading single.
They left it for dead, honey. They left it for dead.
I just want to set the scene. Like, can you imagine? So it's the year 2000, and they turned this record into Sylvia Rome, and they're like, "Here it is, girl, our new album." And they're listening around the office in the boardroom, and the records play. Like, what do you think the response? What do you think the response was upon first listen?
It was probably the reaction that I gave y'all when you asked me if I watched Maxine's show. It was probably that I was kind of like, I don't know about this.
But I think, you know, because back in the day, they used to do those like listening sessions. You know, everyone gathers around and they listen. And I think at that point, they were like, yeah, let's cut this budget immediately. It was like one video. Let's send the girls to the Rosie O'Donnell show and pack it up.
Well, that's the thing for me, though, is like, I wonder how much investment the label even had in them at this point, because we're talking about 2000. They've been a decade plus in the game at this point. The last album didn't meet expectations, even though it had their biggest sort of hit attached to it as a project.
It
but
did
then
okay.
you lost
I mean,
a girl.
It went platinum. It was like,
but like comparatively to the other things, it wasn't the sort of like massive thing that they probably had hoped it would be. And we talked about on our deep dive that it just was a bit of a hodgepodge of sounds anyway. And so this is a different, like, we couldn't even settle into that sound before they decided they were going to go take us somewhere else with all of this sort of classical sample driven stuff. And so it's weird because y'all remember what music sounded like in 2000? Like, I just can't imagine. There's a maturity to the use of classical sounds that I would have been like, girl, this ain't for the radio. Like, none of this is for the radio. Like, it's cute, but like, how are you comparing to artists and pop music in particular that was coming out in 2000? It just doesn't make any sense to me why they thought this was the way to go.
Well, I think also at that time, 99, 2000 was also a wave of neo soul. Like, so for black artists, it was like the real emergence of the neo soul era. You had the Jill Scotts, the D'Angelos, the Kindred Family Souls, the Erykah Badu's, that really, the Floetry, you know, that it really went on a big explosion on that type of thing. And I think En Vogue had some songs on Masterpiece Theater that I think really would have fit a little bit more in that lane, that were not like of the classical sample, like Work It Out, Number One Man. Like, those are two records that I thought, you know, you got some R&B like potential there. But definitely nothing mainstream, nothing that was going to get them any type of crossover appeal on this album at all.
I will say that I can appreciate a conceptual vision. So I can appreciate, you know, Thomas and Denny and En Vogue, like having like a vision of like, oh wow, what if we did this way? Cause remember, I think maybe like 2 years later, MTV did Carmen Hip Opera with Beyonce and Mos Def, you know what I mean? So it was like, there was also this like very mainstream popular thing where it's like, we're taking, you know, classic theater and putting a hip hop spin to it. Like, you know, so and they also did, on the album, they did a spin on a Carmen opera song.
Oh, those dogs?
The same way it's the same way Beyonce did with the Pepsi commercial.
The Pepsi commercial.
You know what I mean? So
what you're saying is they were ahead of their time. If they had just waited a couple of years, they would have been able to join in on the hip opera.
I do. I like I said, I can appreciate that. I just feel like the vision wasn't fully realized because the production value is not the best on certain songs, and like you said, there's no mainstream appeal. Like, even with Riddle being the lead single, the Riddle music video is a serve. Like the storyline, the costuming, the sets, because it has like this very kind of it
was a very 2000s video for sure.
And because it from a 2000s perspective, looking at like a futuristic or like modern, you know, like, so like the set design, like, looking very modern, you know, the leather dominatrix outfits when they were like going back and forth with their two personas, you know, the purple fringe, like, I was like, this is like a serve. Like, I love this video, but when you think of, I feel like because of the concept, the songs feel laborious. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, it's theater, so we're telling a story, so there's a lot of lyrics. You know, the choruses are not really catchy. Because when you say 1 little riddle, 2 little, 3 little, 4 little, like, what does that mean? What am I saying? You know what I mean?
No.
But I feel like, I know they're saying like, oh, you're lying, so you're telling me riddles. So I'm like, but that doesn't necessarily translate on the first listen. Like, well, what does riddle mean? You know what I mean? So I feel like there was like a disconnect with like the execution, but the album itself, which we're going to get into, it has a lot of gems that I feel like go a little bit underappreciated from the people.
Now, rumor has it, or urban legend, I don't know if this has been confirmed by any of the ladies or not, but I believe that Riddle was like the last song they recorded because upon initial reaction to the album, the label felt like they didn't have a single, so they went back in and recorded Riddle last. Like, have you guys heard that?
Oh, that's interesting.
I haven't heard that either.
Yeah, that was something. Yeah, I remember reading that and hearing that years ago. That was like the label just thought that they didn't have anything, and so they went back in and recorded Riddle. Like, the concept is really interesting, actually. I think it's a really interesting concept. And it hasn't really been done, I don't think, not by a like popular group. So maybe they were going for like we haven't gotten our Grammy yet. We want to do something that's going to be like critically acclaimed and that's going to kind of get us to be seen or taken seriously, maybe. Okay, well, let's get into the album. So what are you guys' favorites? Do you have any favorites? Does anyone?
I do, and I actually have a nice handful of favorites on this album that I can listen to that have re-listening ability for me. So I do listen to Riddle because I just think that the entire song lyrically is just so petty.
It is.
And it's just a petty song.
Because she found Louise's number. Like, who? If your man cheating on you
Who
with somebody
chose
named
Louise?
Louise, that is a problem.
Let me tell you, no. Every time Cindy comes in on her verse, she goes, Friday night. I love that part so much, the little run up. I love that. She does it so well. So the album has some gems on it. But yeah, so I do like Riddle a lot. I love Falling in Love. It's such a cute song to me cause vocally they all sound so, and honestly, I feel like this album, at least like vocally, favors Cindy and Maxine very well. Like every verse that they have, every song they lead, like Maxine, I'm a business queen and a corporate king now. But when it comes to love, like, I'm like, you better sing.
Well, one thing that has always bothered me about this song when they said, it's something in that song where they're like, there's no software for love. I'm like, girl, all these dating apps, there's plenty of software to find love. But maybe in 2000 they didn't have it. But
no, I think around that time they had those like dating services where you have to record a video on VHS and send it to them. And you would have to go to their headquarters to like go through a VHS of tapes of people.
I think that on the episode of 227, I feel like.
It was very much that.
She said there's no software for the love.
Mm-hmm. So I do love Falling in Love. Love You Crazy. So I have a funny story with Love You Crazy. When I bought Masterpiece Theater on CD, I would listen to it in my room, on the radio, right? On the boombox. And so my brother, who's like this, like, at the time, he's like, super thuggish. She's like real hood. And when it started, he came in, he was like, wait, who is this? And I was like, oh, this is En Vogue. And so he kept having me loop the beginning over and over, that little then it comes in with the hip hop beat. He thought that was like such a serve. And he wanted to rap to it. And I was like, this is so funny. So I will say that concept of Love You Crazy, the production is a really good, so I can listen to that song over and over. Whatever Will Be. I like that song. Work It Out. Work It Out is such a funky, good R&B song. Cindy has that bridge is probably one of their, to me, it could be on the list of one of their top bridges of all their songs. Cause it just has like such a groove to it. And then it's a song that, Maxine, I literally just listened to this album that Maxine is on.
Love Won't Take Me Out?
Yeah. And then No Can't Come Back. It's not my favorite song, but it has like that EV nostalgia to it, like do 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 do. It gives me Funky Divas, like Born to Sing vibes to it. You know what I mean? It's not the best song, but but for me, those are like some of my favorites that I can listen to. The other some of these other songs, they can be thrown out. And I know that on our YouTube page we have a clip of them singing "Sad But True" with Rona.
At the night of the proms.
I don't like that song at all. I don't like that song.
My mouth is agape. What?
I'm sorry.
Wow.
But I'm gonna shut up. But those are some of my favorite songs on the album. What about you guys?
So, okay, I actually like a lot of songs on the album.
So I think we have to redirect ourselves here because maybe we actually really like this album.
I like a lot of the songs. I just think that it shouldn't exist. Like, it shouldn't have been released. But I mean, I bought the CD when it came out. I was like, who is this woman on the cover? Because that is not Maxine. And but over the years, I have come to really like a lot of the songs. Like, and it was one of those things where I always kind of had like this negative association of Masterpiece Theater in my mind because it was like not very successful and they got dropped after they released it. But actually, in looking at it, it's like, damn, I actually like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the songs. Like I have like in my, in my playlist. So 10 out of 14 of the songs. No, Can't Come Back. I always listen to that. Falling in Love. Love Won't Take Me Out. I feel like that is such a bop. Work It Out. Love You Crazy. I do like, but what I don't like is like when no-name rappers just pop up on songs. So I'm like, I feel like that could have been a single. I do think Love You Crazy is really catchy. But I don't know who that person rapping is. That kind of threw it off for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm having like a weird time reconciling the fact that I thought I didn't like it as much as I maybe do. So yeah, I just have to, I'm sad but true Hive over here.
Okay.
So I do love that song. I think the live performance eclipses the studio performance for me, the one that we've talked about before on previous episodes, but I just think it's a beautiful song. And I think specifically the Rona edition just filled it out in a way that, maybe lacks a little bit on the studio version, but, I just think it's a beautiful song, period. And then, yeah, I think like, I, unlike JP, love Riddle. I think it was actually a great song. I think it's a great, like, it's catchy
and
for
it's
a
so
single.
Long. It doesn't end. Like, oh my God.
And I think y'all mentioned some of the other ones. I think we have a consistent level of, outside of Riddle, apparently. I think we have consistent faves between the three of us, but the ones that don't work really just don't work. So yeah. And I actually, speaking of Riddle, I think we talked about this before, but I actually like the original version. The Red Zone remix is fine, but I'm an original Riddle fan.
I'm an original as well. Like, I hate the fact that I used to, for years, I would
only listen to that one.
I would YouTube the video, but it would always be the Red Zone remix. I'm like, where's the original audio? Like, I don't want this. It was, I hated it. But it's a favorite. Do y'all know the actress CCH Pounder?
Yeah. Where are we going with this?
She was in Demon Knight and she had her arm chopped off in Demon Knight.
That's who Maxine looks like on that cover.
She does. When I remember going into I went into, it was either, do y'all know Camelot Music?
Yeah, I remember Camelot Music.
So I went in there and I was like, En Vogue got a new album, and I looked at that cover and I was like, who the hell is this? And I was just like, did I miss a issue of Right On Magazine or Black Beat? Because I don't recall. I was like, what happened to Maxine? Like, where did she go?
Well, and the thing, I'm going to attribute it to the fact that at the Y2K era, that the music industry in particular was really loving the technology, because we had the auto-tune at full blast, and apparently we had the Photoshop working overtime, and sometimes it just did not work. It did not work.
That is another question I have to have for Maxine. Like, honey, what happened in this cover? Like, I thought Maxine was replaced. But, yeah, so why do you guys think the album failed to meet the success of Funky Divas or even EV3 at this point? Do you think it would have mattered? Like, if, let's say they did something that was very much of the time, do you think it would have changed kind of like the trajectory of En Vogue? Or was Sylvia Rhone in the label and just really not interested at all?
I do feel like if you want to make it in this business, you have to go where the trends go. You have to. At least if you're a black, at this time in the 2000s, if you're a black artist trying to stay mainstream, you have to follow the trend. To the year 2000 was not kind to black artists trying to venture out and do conceptual stuff. You know what I mean? Especially you're trying to like blend musical theater with R&B, hip hop aesthetics like that. It wasn't favorable for black people at that time. So so all these years later, I can appreciate this album a lot more and what the goal was. But I do feel like, some of these songs should have been taken off. And there should have been like more mainstream stuff. And I do feel like a lot of the songs that we like as faves probably could have had a better shelf life if there was a visual behind it. Cause sometimes the visual of a song helps you connect with the song more. Like just having like an audio, you kind of like trying to figure out. I used to do that with a lot of Beyonce songs. Like I didn't like Run the World when it first came out. I thought it was like, fun, but I didn't like it. Then
Sorry. Continue.
Are you in your AJ era? Is that what you're doing? When I saw the video, I was able to put like a vibe to the song. So I feel like with a lot of these songs, like even Work It Out. Like I'm like I can imagine if we had like a visual with that song, it would have had a better shelf life probably on adult contemporary radio. You know what I mean? Like it could have been like a second single, etc. I even think that Those Dogs, like if it had a visual, it probably would have been like.
I used to love that song when I first bought the album. I used to wear that out.
Me too. City sound great. And then what's the Love You Crazy? Like if that had a visual, like with Nutcracker vibes, the ladies are in like toy soldier-esque type of costumes with
that would have been cute.
With the makeup, like if they were like on like a stage, like if it really was like, let's do like a Nutcracker type of video. Can you imagine the girls like have y'all seen the Met Gala pictures? Mm-hmm. Can y'all remember what Jenna Ortega was wearing?
Yes.
And she had like that let me find the picture. She had that like Tom Brown, designer, but it was very much toy soldier. Like it had that feel like, so I could see them like wearing something in that vein, with some tools, some lace, like, but either way, Love You Crazy, it could have had a great visual moment, to kind of go with the song, and it probably would have connected with audiences better. But yeah, I feel like visuals would have helped the album at least not be considered a flop. Cause it's not, commercially it's a flop, but it's not a bad album.
It makes me wonder though, like, well, two things. So I think when you want to I think there's a balance, right? When it comes to like commercial success and when you are a mainstream act, you have to, be ahead of the trend and all of those things, right? But conceptually, if you have an artistic idea, I think there's a balance of like, I want to follow my idea, but I also realize that we got to keep the lights on. So we have to do something that's going to be that the people are going to gravitate to easily. So I think for Masterpiece Theater, it would have been nice for them to have their concept, and they could have done like, a little theater suite type of thing, like kind of like how they did the album where they have like the love suite or whatever. They could have had like a little Masterpiece Theater suite part where they kind of play with those samples, but around that they could have gave us something more current. They could have gave us something, they could have gotten another, Babyface record or, a little Jimmy Jam or something. But it makes me wonder though, since Tommy and Denny did most of the production, I'm assuming they didn't spend a lot of budget. So I wonder if, that was their way of kind of keeping money in their pockets, maybe?
Oh, like it was easier to just streamline the budget with the production,
right,
with the producers that they were
using. So let's say if you get $100,000 production budget, and Tommy and Denny are going to do it for half of that, and so you get to kind of keep some of those costs. Maybe I don't know.
Well, it also gives you more room to play, right? Because if you go and get the one Babyface song and it's half your budget,
right?
Unless it's a hit, you left that sort of out in the cold to figure out what to do with the rest of your coin. So I think that's an interesting hypothesis for sure.
Yeah, there are politics that go into making an album. It's not always creative. So that is a very valid thing to say. It's like, okay, well, maybe we can do more if we keep the money in house and pay other people. But I guess I feel like if you have a hit, I feel like the label is going to they'll increase the budget. I feel like it's like, true. But if you're not trying to venture out to say, maybe we should talk to this person or that person. The definition of insanity.
Well, and that's
doing the same thing over and over and expecting a result. So it's like,
yeah,
Tommy and Denny, they were kind of losing their edge, after a while.
That's a good segue though, because one thing that keeps popping into my brain that we haven't necessarily said yet is, like, y'all know I like a little context and a little time and place. And so it's important, I think, here to say, like, they have been in the game for over a decade, and these are women who were approaching 40 in pop R&B music. And so I think it's important to name how ageist the industry is and how people see your worth depending on how you've been able to show and prove and what you can offer, like, right now. So, like, the fact that they had been in the game for a long time did not benefit them as much as their shelf value right now at that point in the year 2000. And I feel like we didn't treat, especially women, especially Black women in pop music, which I say they're pop artists. Like, yes, they're R&B singers, R&B music, but, like, they were massive pop success during the 90s. And so I feel like by 2000, unless you had a really sort of obvious and big presence in pop music, which I think we saw started to wane with EV3, I think that they weren't seen as valuable as other artists at the time. And so I think that affects budget, that affects music videos, that affects the sound. All of that sort of gets impacted by decisions by people who are making those decisions and saying that we think that because, you've been in the game this long and the last one didn't do so well, you don't get the budget or you don't get the investment. So I just think we gotta name that, because unfortunately, Cindy, I think at the time, I just looked it up, was like 39 into 40. And that is not, for now, maybe that could work. But back then, I don't think people were really sort of featuring that.
And then you also, thinking about that, it's like, when I think about some of the songs that were popular, in 2000, like one, Say My Name went number one in 2000. You know what I mean? Maria Maria went number one 2000. Aaliyah's Try Again. And I'm just looking at Black artists. Cisco Incomplete was number one. Janet Jackson Doesn't Really Matter was number one. Come On Over, Christina Aguilera was number one. Independent Woman was number one. So I feel like, they're Outkast did Miss Jackson, so there are a lot of different, like, Joe Stutter went number one. I had no clue that went number one.
That was a bop. I had that CD single, honey. Yes.
Oh wow.
Stutter went number one. I could take it lying.
Yeah. Usher's You Remind Me. This is 2001. Wait, 2000. Oh, okay. I'm done with 2000. But so there was a lot of variety when it came to the Black sound on number one. You know what I mean? But I feel like if you kind of get in touch with what is on Billboard Top 10, it's not this. So I feel like it's like, okay, we have a good concept, but like you said, JP, it's like maybe get like one or two songs that can be like mainstream pop. And then you can keep the rest of the stuff. Because how many albums have we bought?
Where you only listen to the singles.
The singles are the only good songs, and the rest of the album is trash. So I'm like, but at least you have a spot in the culture for at least the next 2 years because you have a top 10 hit.
You can't course correct at that point, right? Like, what if you've done half of these songs and you've committed to this concept, and now you're like, maybe this ain't it, or maybe it's not being received on the label front. You can't go back in the studio and record a whole new album of fresh songs. So you just sort of have to deal with what you got, you know?
Yeah. Tommy and Denny didn't have any other artists, or they didn't have any other songs on Billboard, nothing like that. So my question is, and this isn't, I'm not trying to be shady. I'm literally speaking from like a business perspective. If Tommy and Denny as producers do not have any artists or any type of mainstream success in the current climate of music now, meaning 2000, and how sounds have changed, how artistry has changed, why trust them to produce the entire album? Because they're not in that. You know what I mean? It's like,
I think the ladies, I think that was definitely their choice.
Yeah, 100%. And but I also feel like Sylvia Rome should have.
But I had another thought, and I was reading a quote from one of the critics' reviews, and it says, En Vogue's Connie Johnson from the Los Angeles Times concluded that ever since the departure of member Dawn Robinson, En Vogue hasn't sounded like the girl group innovator it was for much of the 90s. And I was just thinking, like, I wonder if Dawn was in the group, because I don't think she would have went for that. I wonder how that would have changed, like, what this project sounded like as well. You know what I mean? Because I think Dawn, she's the younger one in the group. And to Josh's point, like, Cindy was almost 40. I think Terry was like 38. I wonder if missing that element made them kind of lose some of their cool factor. Someone in the studio to say, girls, this is not what's hot. This is not what, Janet is releasing. This is not what TLC is doing. I think they were missing that, someone to say, ladies,
imagine it. Who wrote Say My Name? Did Beyonce write
Rodney Jerkins and LaShawn Daniels.
Rodney Jerkins. So I'm like, why not work with these I'm sure Rodney Jerkins' Dark Child was probably expensive. But wasn't Rona Bennett the first lady of Dark Child? Was she still around at that time? Was she around Dark Child around 1999, 2000? Because I feel like this album was being recorded from 99 to 2000. So I'm like, either way, I feel like I agree with you about Dawn. Everybody can say what they want to say about Dawn, but like, sis, she be speaking some sense. She's like, no, this isn't this ain't hot. This ain't cute. This ain't current. This is out of the ordinary. I feel like she would have been like, this isn't it. And she probably would have been like, let's talk to Rodney Jerkins. Let's talk to Babyface again, et cetera, et cetera. Like, cause whatever was the biggest hit on EV3, so it's like, let's get some more people, but like, I feel like Tommy and Denny should have like submitted songs, and they should have got submissions from multiple producers to say, okay, we have this concept, but let's just get some submitted songs and talk to groups, say, hey, we doing this, and then go from there.
But can y'all imagine so here's where I sort of walk it back a little bit, because can you imagine if the vision was this sort of classical concept, but they gave people the opportunity to submit across, right? Like, so what you mentioned, Champ, which like, if Tommy and Denny submitted their songs, but what if you told Rodney Jerkins, like, we're going for this concept. You do what you think would be interesting using this sample, or you do what like Missy, you give me something that feels classical inspired. So instead of having sort of a consistent level or a consistent concept across like one or two production folks, you've got a bigger concept that's like, oh, this is how Missy like interpreted classical. This is how Dark Child did, or this is how Stargate did, or these are like, so everybody it would feel fresher because there'd be different perspectives on the same concept. You know what I mean? Like that would have been really, really interesting to me.
Exactly. But like, there are songs on here that I'm like, they're good songs. Like I would love to hear on a set list, like at a live performance. I feel like I was trying to make excuses for Latin soul, but that song is not good. It's not a good song. Ooh, I
like that. I like the chorus. Recently, I started listening to that song, and I was like, "Oh, this is cute. Could I see a video for it?" Like, I'm thinking, like, I mean, it was the Latin explosion at the time. Maybe that could have been a little something. But I hate in the verses when they start talking about going to get lunch at a cafe or some shit. Like, why are we? Why are you thinking about going to the cafe and sitting down at an empty club? Like, girl.
See, I'm glad you said that because
your taste level is questionable today. We are talking. You say you like Latin soul, but you have shaded the hell out of Riddle. It's fascinating to me.
Oh yeah, well I can feel the Latin soul
when they talk about Monday morning and all that kind of stuff. But you don't. But I will say I'm glad you said that because for me, a lot of the lyrics are very storytelling. You know what I mean? It's like they're setting a scene, and I'm kind of like, all right. Can we do something else? Because I felt like it kind of got played out. Because I guess maybe that was like part of building this concept of like we're telling like it's supposed to be like a theater, like a masterpiece. I get that, but I felt like sometimes the songs were. I'm like, what? Where's the poeticism? Like, where are the metaphors and the similes? Like, it wasn't poetic. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't like. I just felt like I was like, oh, we're talking. It's like, yeah, you came in and sat on my couch, and I looked at you when I was and I was upset, and I was like, okay, girl, thanks for telling. It's like I'm reading your diary versus like I'm listening to like a poetic song. So that was kind of my problem with a few of the songs on there, but like I said, like the song still has some gems overall. But yeah, I would have working with different producers, which has been the tale as old as time on this podcast. I just feel like it's okay to reach out, and hey, who's to say that maybe they did go in the studio with Missy Elliott, or maybe they had a conversation with Missy. Maybe Missy was like ready to do it. Maybe she was like, I want to, because we all know Missy Elliott loves girl groups. She pays homage to them. She loves the Clark Sisters. She loves singing women, Faith Evans, Kelly Price. Like, she's worked with these women a lot. So I can imagine that being on the same label, she probably was like, let me get in the studio with En Vogue. Let me talk to them. But maybe the schedule was just didn't connect, or maybe they just wanted to stay loyal to Tommy and Denny. I don't know. Maybe Missy Elliott was expensive, but I imagine if you're on the same label, because Missy Elliott is not, she, like you said, she's a writer and a producer too. So I'm sure she has multiple songs in her arsenal that she could be like, hey y'all, just come in the studio, today and I can play y'all some stuff. You know what I mean? Like, hell, they could have talked to Candy Burris. She wrote Bills. I wonder if maybe there was like a initial interest on both parties to work, and it just didn't happen. Because I do feel like Dawn would have been like, we need to work with Missy. Don't Mess With My Man from Lucy Burrow could have been a great En Vogue song, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Cause Don't Mess With My Man, first of all, the way it starts, I feel like I said this before on this podcast, but like the guitar, the bass, I'm like, just the way it starts, it's so like electric. So imagine hearing that at an En Vogue concert, and like, him and the different ladies, like, I'm like, that could have been an En Vogue song. And because, and we know Raphael Sadiq has worked with them before, and he knows them, and the fact that Dawn is the only one singing on that song, I could see Raphael submitting that as an En Vogue. But yeah,
and to be fair, like, I could also see the aesthetic of Lucy Pearl, like the vision of Lucy Pearl, like that, how they showed up, also applying to En Vogue at the time. Like it would have been a nice, consistent through line from EV3, which I think they were playing around with some of that. And then, but instead we got high glam aesthetic for Masterpiece Theater, which I also I like. I mean, for bad Photoshop aside, I think like they looked great in terms of like how they were styling them, but I think that's interesting to imagine in an alternate universe where they maybe leaned more into that sort of opposite end of aesthetic, but also played around with some of that more neo soul of the time, which is what Lucy Pearl was doing. This Photoshop was really bad, y'all. Like, I'm looking at it again, and so Max's face aside, they really did a lot on Terry's body to make her look like on the Riddle single cover. She is obscenely thin, and I know that she was not as thin as she has been photoshopped here, because it doesn't look healthy to me. So like, I don't know. It's just, ugh. Yeah, the Riddle single cover is. They're wearing those. They look sexy. I love the little the color scheme.
Oh god.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, who is? Yeah, why does this look like Azalea Banks and not Maxine Jones? Doesn't it look like Azalea Banks?
Even Cindy's face is not as Cindy. Like they really did touch the Photoshop was working, and unnecessarily. Like, they're beautiful women. They didn't need any of that.
And Max don't look like herself again.
Yep.
It's like, this is 2 times in a row where I'm like, who is that? I like it. Like, I like the color scheme a lot. I love, the pop, the dresses. Like, they look good.
Why they got Terry in this white? Because there's like a jewel tone thing that's happening between
yeah, she should have worn emerald
or
green.
Green. Yeah, like they could have been giving the Wiz glam,
period.
But instead, she over here in a springtime Easter dress.
But that's the same thing with them putting Max in black on the Masterpiece Theater cover. I'm like, why
going
is
to
she
the funeral?
Black?
I can't.
Yeah, that's weird.
Choices.
It just, I mean the. It's giving En Vogue and a fresh take, as at least the color scheme of it all. But there are just ways that you could just elevate it, and I'm like, maybe not. Especially if it's an album. The album is supposed to be a take on theater. Y'all need to give me some drama.
Yeah, yeah.
If your name is En Vogue, give me some Vogue,
right?
Some couture. Yeah. So for you guys, where does this album rank in your overall EV discography?
I actually think I put it at, this is wild. I put it at number 3.
Oh my gosh.
So
you know what? But you know what's actually funny? I was looking to my side, and I was like, wait, do I like this album more than EV3? And
exactly.
I don't like the EV3 album. Besides Don't Let Go.
And whatever.
I don't like that album. So I feel like I will put Masterpiece Theater above EV3. 100%.
I enjoy EV3 because I get to hear Don's vocals all up and throughout. So it just has it just holds a special place in my heart.
A loyal fan, honey. A loyal fan to the end.
A loyal
I would take her
fan.
on the background.
Loyal to the block. To the block and beyond, honey. Loyal.
Yeah, actually, Josh, we're on the same page. I would actually rank Masterpiece Theater number 3 in their discography.
The only thing that, and this is so superficial, but the thing that gives EV3 the one-up for me is only the aesthetics and the budget and like visual things. Like when I think about EV3 visually, it is actually, and I said this before, EV3 is my favorite like visual presentation of En Vogue from any album. And so that means a lot to me because like you said earlier, when I see a music video, it informs how I think about the song or feel about the song. And when I saw that Whatever video, like that album could have had 5 songs and Whatever would still make it like a superstar album for me, just because the visual and the song do something for me. So like that's the only one up. Otherwise, I think as a whole, like you said, Masterpiece Theater is just a more consistent and a better listen, I think. And especially aging, I think it's still a better listen than EV3.
Right. Oh, and Two Gone Too Long. That's one of my favorite EVs on studio. So what besides Whatever, Don't Let Go, and Two Gone Too Long, and maybe Let It Flow on a Good Day, EV3 album is like, I don't like it. But for me to have like 6 or 7 songs that I could listen to in Masterpiece Theater or repeat over EV3's 3.5, yeah, Masterpiece Theater is a much better album to me. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of in the, I guess the album gets like a average C plus C for all of us.
I think it's time to get to the listener letters.
Yeah, so we are going to do our fave letter segment. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. And
well, I will say before we go, I will say to the listeners, you know, please in the comments, like tell us what you think of this album. What are your favorite tracks on this album? What do you think could have made this album better? And what do you think is the reason why it failed commercially? Like, we want to hear your thoughts. And where does this album rank in your EV discography? Is it better than EV3 like me and Josh said? Or is it, you know, do you like Electric Cafe better than this? You know, we want to hear, so tell us what you think about it as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
You better drum up the engagement in the comments, okay?
Period.
A podcast host, a producer, a co-producer. Anyway.
But let me also just say, like, notice how when you think about their discography or whatever, we only, like, I think most people will agree, like, the best are the ones that they did, you know, when they were signed to the major label. I really hope that they give us an album that we can be proud of in the future. Like, I hope, you know, when you think about their later years and their later discography, I hope they give us something that we can really enjoy as feverishly as we enjoy, like, the Born to Sing and the Funky Divas. You know what I mean? I want a full album that I can enjoy as much as I enjoy those. Cause like, as a Janet fan, I can say like, Unbreakable was like, I felt like I was in my glory. I felt like it was like she went back to like the days that I fell in love with. As I would love for like En Vogue to just give me an album, and we know it's not going to do whatever commercially, but I would love just to get like a great body of work that we're like, oh, they did that. Like, it sold 2 copies, but they did that. Mm-hmm. Like,
and I think the charge is certainly on them to figure it out, but it's also on like labels to put the investment and coins in them so that they can actually do it too. You know, like I think we saw a little bit of it with Electric Cafe, like, because when I think about Rocket or Reach for Me, I'm like, oh wow, the potential. So it's still there, but I think that they have to, like, at the time, I don't know if they're still dealing with E1, but at least with the last album, I guess E1 let them play and maybe gave them the money to do so, because, you know, Rocket was a Neo record. Reach for Me was
a bop. But I also think that like recording now is a lot cheaper. Like back in like the 2000s, you had like producers charging 6 figures for like a song. Like I remember like the Neptunes and Timbaland and them, like they were charging like $200,000 for like a song just to produce a song. So
what about new producers, like up and coming folks? Like I just feel like they need like a creative mind with them musically to be like, let's go find the up and coming folks who haven't necessarily been put on yet, who are going to have more contemporary sounding songs to offer.
I think a lot of that is on them, but also like their team, their management, like to be listening, like who are the hungry new people that'll, you know, work with them, that can give them something fresh.
I feel like Rona seems like the type to just be researching artists. Like just because she's such a musician, I could see her like being on SoundCloud, like looking at YouTube videos, like, you know, like even like with like new artists, like I said, the Chandela, Citizen Queen, Flo, like all these new emerging, girl groups, or even like people like Coco Jones and Victoria Monet, like these, you know, even Chloe Bailey, who is a writer producer, you know. So I'm like, I can imagine like what songs does she have in her arsenal that her and Chloe didn't do, that she didn't put on in pieces, that maybe could be submitted to En Vogue. And these are female artists who look up to women like En Vogue, who paved the way for them, who would be like, what? En Vogue with a new album, and can I submit like 3 or 4 songs for y'all to consider? You know what I mean? But yeah, there are a lot of like new producers who are up and coming who aren't that expensive because, one, they haven't had like a lot of, they have a shelf life when it comes to like streaming and TikTok and like their songs being shared, but not necessarily like Billboard success, not a number one. So although sonically they are great, but they don't have that commercial success on a top tier level yet to where like it's going to be super expensive to work with them. You know what I mean? So like, I mean, Matana always talks about, I think you and Matana always talk about K Trinata, and you know, K Trinata just started a group with Amine, the rapper, you know, and their song is really cool. So just like hearing them do different sounds will be great. Like imagine En Vogue doing a song and Amine being featured. Like that to me would be a dope collaboration. Or imagine like them doing a song and Anderson .Paak is, featured on it, or he's producing. Like, you know, there's so many options that they have. I just want to know, are they open to it? Because the storyline for them has not run stale yet.
But you know,
it's not run
I thought
stale.
we were going to get some of that when they did that Chance the Rapper song, because that was, I thought that at first when I heard they were doing a song with Chance the Rapper, I thought they were going to do like a sample flip of something that they already did, and they were going to, you know, it's going to be something sort of like nostalgia or whatever. But when it was an original song and they were kind of giving us, I think they gave us the hook, like, there were a lot of people on that song though, outside of them, but I just thought it was really cool, and I was like, oh, maybe they're about to get a little bit more exploratory. They're going to try some new things. Maybe this will like invigorate them to sort of create songs with other audiences in mind outside of maybe what they've already been touching. But it also makes me realize, because I would love for them to have a moment in the TikTok generation similar to what people are doing with SWV's Rain right now, which is like, it's kind of being sampled on everybody's song and TikTok loves it. And I'm like, why has that not popped with an En Vogue record yet? Like, I don't know. We just need somebody to come in.
I could even see it happening with Runaway Love. Just because it has, it's about to be the summer, you know, Runaway Love has that top down, riding past the beach type of vibe, you know, let's drink a Prosecco or something like that. It has that vibe to it. So I could see that. But yeah, I do want them to kind of tap into the TikTok generation, just because that's what's popular. Like I would love to see, I don't know if it'll happen, but just like, because En Vogue were trendsetters, they were those fashion girls. Like, I feel like there's a spot for them in the social media world that can translate to endorsements and sponsorships. Like, you know, them being, you know, seen at the Met Gala, you know, or like, you know, a designer like Christian Siriano wanting to put them in one of his shows, like, you know what I mean? Cause the ladies look fucking good. You know, they still have the body, the face, you know, they're muses in their own right. So it's like, there is a lane for it. I just hope that I hope that, they get a team that can take advantage of that. So, you know, maybe I'm putting it in the universe. We shall see. But yeah, let's get to these listener letters.
So, the first letter this episode comes from Candace, and Candace says, "Hi, Fancast. First of all, congratulations on the amazing interview with Rona. I'm so impressed that you guys got to interview a member of En Vogue. First, Frank Gatson, now Rona Bennett. Fingers crossed for Maxine Jones next." Anyway, Rona is so down to earth, such a nice, honest, and insightful person. It was an absolute pleasure listening to her. She seems like someone I would absolutely love to sit down for a chat with. What a good soul. Keep up the great work, guys, and stay blessed. Thanks, Candace.
Yes. Shout out to Matan. He did a great job with that interview. He was really trying to fish for that information, but Rona comes from that old school media training. She knows how to segue. She knows how to do it. Matan's like, "So, do you have a prenup?" And she's like, "Well, prenup rhymes with hiccup. So," and I'm like, "Okay, Rona, you better pivot." But yeah, it was a really great interview. I got a lot of insight. She just seems so self-aware and so secure as a woman, as a Black woman. I love that. And her journey is very inspiring. She be giving out these gems. She should do a TED Talk. That's how good she is. And our next listener letter comes from Lynn, and she says, "Hey boys, I'm back." Wait, I'm back. Who was Lynn? Oh, do y'all remember Lynn?
I don't remember Lynn's last letter, but Lynn says it was a while back, so.
Oh, okay. So, well, welcome back, Lynn. Anyways, Lynn says, "Hey, boys, I'm back, and thanks for reading my letter a while back. The shady reactions killed me. After watching Escape and SWV's reality show, it got me thinking, and I'm curious to know your perspective." Escape and SWV both had a huge resurgence, and I feel are a few steps above Evie in the media now. This is true. Both groups are doing huge arena shows and high-profile interviews, events, whilst Evie is performing at SeaWorld. Lynn, you can't. Hold on. Lynn, why are you gagging me like this? Okay.
It's not actually correct, but anyway, let's... Because SWV is still performing at Busch Gardens, which is as of like last month. So let's be very clear. And En Vogue just came off of an arena tour with New Kids on the Block and is going on. Anyway, go ahead, Lynn. Lynn.
So she says both groups are doing huge arena shows and high profile interviews and events whilst Evie is performing at SeaWorld and casinos in the middle of nowhere.
It's the whilst for me. It's the whilst.
It's the whilst. I think if they leaned into mainstream media a little more, it would benefit them a great deal. I'm not saying they need to do a reality show, but they need a manager PR team that is going to book them for high profile gigs, get them on talk show that is not Good Morning Dallas, excuse me, and get them some stylish outfits. It was even acknowledged that Evie outsold both Escape and SWV, but yet they are touring like a legacy act. And I feel bad for them because their legacy deserves a lot better. Say what you will, but Cindy and Terry really fumbled the bag with Max and Dawn, because had it been the OG4, I believe they would have had a huge comeback in mainstream media today. Sorry it was a little long, but curious to know your thoughts. Thanks, Lynn.
Well, Lynn, when you're right, you're right, sis. When you're right, you're right. I don't know.
Josh, you are stirring over here.
I just have to say, so yes, I think we have to acknowledge that they are, in the current moment, they are not, even though they are far surpassed in record sales, etc., success, impact. I think they far surpass Escape and SWV. That is the fact. However, SWV is still at the SeaWorld too, and we'll see. I think there's like a weird moment where people have to figure out what to do with with reality television fame and how that translates. Because
SWV is going on tour with Jodeci and Drew Hill.
True, and they've been doing. They've been doing that, but I think that there's like a combination between when SWV is joining somebody, like there's when you're with a group of acts and you're doing arenas, which is what all of these groups are doing right now. None between SWV, Escape, and En Vogue, none of them are doing arena tours by themselves, right? Like they are on a bill with at least 3 to 4 other artists of similar or whatever caliber. So like that's number one, right? And then also Cindy and Terry didn't fumble the bag. All of them fumbled the bag. Okay. All of them fumbled the bag because any of these women should have been able to put their things aside, regardless of what they were, to get the bag. And that's what's the most frustrating part of it for me is like, it's not one. We battle a lot about like, oh, it's this member that did this. It's all of them because at the end of the day, we got to all be able to pull our stuff aside and go for the greater goal, which is success, coins, relevance. So.
And the worst part, though, is that I don't think En Vogue is ever going to get their due because people want to see the originals. Like SWV and Escape are able to kind of move the way they're moving because people want because they all have their original lineups. And until En Vogue is at that place, it's just, I don't think they're ever going to be, they're not going to get that same fanfare because at the end of the day, the original 4 is what created the fans to begin with. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't think a designer is going to be like, come to the Met Ball with us because like y'all the fashion girls. But it's like, well, the ones that were the fashion girls were the originals. So it's just kind of like, it's just like this never ending circle of just like, you know, what could be, but it's not. But thank you, Lynn.
I mean, I think that their Rocket video is proof that they have a place in fashion in today. I mean, because at the end of the day, Rona is beautiful and statuesque too. But I do agree
when
that
they slay.
The OG 4, you know.
But it's like when they slay today, though, it's just like it's a slay like anyone can slay with the stylist, you know. But like what makes it special is like when you see like the originals doing. Like I just think it's like when you see a pretty girl in a pretty dress, it's a pretty girl in a pretty dress, right? But I think what gives it that wow factor or just like the media buzz or like the attention is like when you see, you know,
the OG4.
Yeah, like you know what I mean. Like,
yeah,
it's not like the current lineup hasn't looked good. They've looked great, but I don't think it just doesn't get the same type of media attention as if it were the original 4 looking great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, people love a resurgence. People love a reunion.
People love a reunion.
People love nostalgia.
And I think if it were 5 of them, I think that would still be that would be a great moment because we've seen what happened when they reunited for Sylvia's Sylvia
Rhone, honoring her. Like, yeah, they look great as 5. The outfits were slaying, and the stage presence was good, and Rona fit. You know, but it was still because like, oh my God, Dawn and Maxine are back too. So I feel like that is a missed opportunity. And like, and I agree with you, Josh. It's like, yeah, they all fumbled the bag because they all cannot get on the same page. We can't just blame one person, 2 people, or this side, that side. It's like, no, you all are to blame because you all have to take accountability to the part you played and not being able to, you know. But I guess for me, I as optimistic as I want to be about it, EV5, you know, etc. I'm just trying to be realistic to like, well, right now we have Rona, Cindy, and Terry. So like, what can they do as a threesome? And granted, they've been doing a lot of great things as a threesome, you know, but it's just kind of they've been like decoration. They haven't been the main attraction. You know what I mean? And so I want, you know, SWV and Escape, you know, right now they are the main attraction. You know, this drama with Latasha Scott makes them the main attraction. Like her dynamic with Candy, you know, the sisters having a fallout, you know, even, you know, with SWV, like they're the main attraction. So I'm like,
for better or worse,
En Vogue hasn't been the main attraction, and not saying that they have to lower their standards and be dramatic and be petty and ratchet, but I'm like, but you have to realize what is current and how you can take advantage of that to increase that bag. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm gonna stay positive. You know, hopefully the ladies will figure something out. Yeah, but like I said, thank you for your petty ass letterland. Thank you so much.
Okay, so now we are going to head on to our rare track of the episode. This episode, we're going to be listening to and reacting to I Love You More and I Love You More remix, written and produced by Denzel Foster and Thomas McElroy. And this was sort of created or released loosely in 2000.
I want the whole wide world to know it's not unusual to feel this way. Sometimes I feel a bit insane. I will confess I deserve nothing less than what you've given me so far.
Before Masterpiece Theater's official release, an accompanying sampler album was put out featuring some of its tracks, among them the songs It's On and I Love You More, with a remix version of the latter. I Love You More included a sample of Nino Rota's The Godfather theme. Despite the latter being highly regarded by its fans, both of these songs were removed from the final album due to issues with uncleared sampling. However, these songs found a new life online as they were leaked onto file-sharing platforms such as LimeWire. Remember LimeWire and Kazaa and all those things?
Napster.
Napster.
More than there are voices in the wind. I love you so I can't let go. I love you so I want the whole wide world to know.
So, what do you all think of I Love You More and its remix?
I think I Love You More sounded like a bit of a bop. I think they had potential. The remix did.
I 100% agree.
It sounded it
absurd.
sounded like something that actually
Yeah.
would have been played on the radio in 2000.
Max sounds
Can
so good on this song.
Yeah. And can you imagine a visual, like a Godfather type of visual? You know what I mean? Like, you know how the ladies that Set It Off did that Godfather scene on the movie? Like, what they had, they were talking about stone it. No. Like, I can imagine like a Godfather thing visual. But yeah, I would have put. It sucks that they weren't able to clear the sample, because I would have put this song and the remix on the Masterpiece Theater album and taken off 2 songs. But I love it's a vibe. I love you more than
The beat is so, that sounded of the time to me, like in the best way. Like on the remix, by the way, like the remix, the production on the remix sounds so much like what would have been played on the radio at the time, and that makes me frustrated.
So it's like y'all knew what was hot at the time, you just decided not to do it. Okay.
And who,
right?
and y'all could, I mean, I guess the sample is kind of hard to clear. That's like The Godfather.
You know what? I would have postponed that release date to get this sample cleared, because I Love You More should have been a lead single.
Ooh.
I would have made this a lead single before I made Riddle a lead single.
Did you guys see that they performed this live a few months ago?
Really?
Yes, there is they were at one of those casinos in the middle of nowhere. And live at the
Shout out to Lynn.
Morongo Casino and Resort and Spa.
Oh wow! I would send me that. I would love to watch that, because this song is about. I would have took what is this song? I would have took Beat of Love and Latin Soul off the album and put this.
What's the world without a beat of love? I like that song. or number one man. That song is boring. It's boring. But yeah, let us know what you guys think of this rare track. And where do you guys think that this should have fallen on the album? Like, should it have been on Masterpiece Theater? Let us know, because I love the song actually.
Well, friends, that is the end of our episode. We can call it a wrap for this episode, folks. It was a deep dive into an album we've been talking about on here for a long, long time and finally got to talk about. So we're excited about that. But please make sure that you continue to follow Part of Us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at En Vogue Craze, and on Twitter at Part of Us Fancast. And as a reminder, send us an email, or you can even record a voice message. We want to hear y'all's voices. Send us an email at partofusevf@gmail.com, and let us know what you think about the show, or if you have questions that you want to have featured under our fan letters. And also, just as a reminder, if you have any kind of, footage or anything that you want us to host on the En Vogue Craze YouTube channel, you can also email us there to send along your goodies, and we will make sure we credit you accordingly. And last but not least, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, then leave us a rating and a review. And even if you're not, just leave us a rating and a review. As long as you got an Apple ID, honey, then you can help us get seen by more folks and get an increased rating. So until next time, we'll see y'all on the other side.
See you guys later.
Bye.
We're more than just a podcast. We're a fan community. You can keep up to date on En Vogue and chat with other fans by visiting En Vogue Craze on Facebook. You can also follow us on YouTube and Instagram at En Vogue Craze and Twitter at Part of Us Fancast. Part of Us and En Vogue Fancast is not endorsed by En Vogue, E1 Music, or En Vogue Records, and is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. En Vogue and its names, images, and audio clips are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of the respective copyright holders.
Chill. You want me to go first? I'll go first.